Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. You know what time it is, update time once again in the contest, and I am back with the patch notes for July of 2023, 6 or 7 things that I think you should know about. Let's jump right in, starting with next month's new champs, Silk and Kindred. These were announced yesterday on the official MCOC YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out that reveal trailer, I encourage you to do so. Those are always very cool. Now when it comes to Silk, I've seen a lot of requests for her, especially in the last 6 months to a year. They seem to have amped up. You know, for me, I hope there is enough in her kit to kind of differentiate her from the other spider champs, because I gotta be honest with you, they're all just kind of starting to blend together for me. So we'll see what happens with her. Kindred, his backstory, or their backstory, I guess, is all over the place. If you want to read through this here, it's basically like this spliced hybrid of two people, and then they died, but Mephisto resurrected them. It's you know, classic comic book stuff, right? So as usual, their spotlights are still under embargo, but I can say that they're both looking very cool. Again, from an animation, from an artwork standpoint, check out that reveal trailer. Animations, especially for Kindred, are disgusting and awesome, and just, you know, they look really cool. So very, very excited for both of these champs to come to the game. Number 2 is the side quest for July, and it's Rifts. Yay! If you can't tell, Rifts are among my least favorite types of side quests in MCOC, because in the past the rewards have been totally based on RNG, right? You know, everybody's seen people posting on Twitter or in their line chats, you know, I've portaled to the top path for the 5th time in a row. Meanwhile, you're stuck with the path that gives you gold, right? Now, having said all that, they have implemented a pair of important changes for this iteration of Rifts. The first change is we are providing a way to ensure that everyone will receive at least one trip to the path with top rewards. So this feels like some sort of path selector almost, right? Now typically the top path has a very low percentage chance for you to get to. It's 1 or 2%, and then the common paths are upwards 50, 60, 70%. So a guaranteed trip to the top path is really nice. You're still going to have those people who are getting the top path, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a month, but it's not going to feel as bad because you're guaranteed at least one trip yourself. Second big change is this one. Each path will provide a reward selector, giving summoners more control over what rewards they receive. So in the past Rift rewards, you've gone to a path and there is a single item on the path and that's what you get. So going forward now, there's going to be a selector on the path giving you a choice of, I know, however many items they're going to put in there. I'm in favor of any change that gives the player more agency, especially over their rewards. So hopefully these Rifts turn out better than they have in previous iterations. So real quick, let's cover the rewards now that we're talking about them. Scroll all the way down here. All right, so here's the percentages for each path. So you can see, again, the most common path is 60%, and then the top path is a 1% chance to get to. So you'll have one guaranteed chance to get to that 1% path. And then if we scroll down to the Paragon rewards, so I gotta be honest, I took a look at these and I feel like the most common path is probably the best one, because that's where you're getting your tier 6 basic and your tier 3 alpha catalyst fragments. So if you're in a position where you are, you know, still ranking up 6 stars to rank 4, rank 5, or even if you've moved on to 7 stars trying to get those up to rank 2, Path A really feels like the best one. The quote-unquote top path, it has an awakening gem, and they've been handing these things out like candy every month. So, you know, one awakening gem is great. I'm not going to complain about it, but I honestly feel like I would rather have much more of Path A than additional trips to Path E. So we'll see how that turns out this month. Number 3 is something called Persistent Placement Phase. You may have heard about this already. I think it was officially announced several weeks ago. Now, if you play Alliance War really at any level, or if you're an officer or a war planner in an alliance that does AW, this is really going to help you out. So the basic idea here is that your AW defenders are now going to persist from war to war. So the immediate benefit is that officers are no longer going to have to hassle players to place their defenders before Alliance War starts. The larger benefit is that the placement phase is going to be removed from the AW cycle, and the attack phase is now going to be increased to 44 hours. So normally you'd have the matchmaking phase, you'd have the defensive placement phase, you have the attack phase. Each of those are, I think, 20 or 24 hours long. Now going forward, once matchmaking concludes, it's immediately going to switch into the attack phase, and you're going to have twice as long to clear the war map. The secondary benefit about this persistent placement phase is that your defenders are no longer going to be locked into Alliance War and can be used in solo content. So I want to note here it specifies solo content only, so you cannot use your AW defenders in Alliance Quest. You can just use them in, EQ, Act content, side quest, etc. So I'm pretty excited for this change. I don't plan wars for my alliance, of course, but I've talked a lot about how much time and effort goes into planning wars, especially at a high level, and this is really going to help alleviate a lot of that stress for the officers in my alliance, and likely yours as well. Number 4, Kabam Zero, back again with another quality of life improvement. This one is called Combo Tracking, and it's targeted toward newer players. Let's take a sneak peek. So the idea here is that combo tracking is going to add these little icons to your HUD that correspond to the offensive actions that your character performs. So we have a medium or a dash attack here, we have 3 lights, then we're charging a heavy, and then we fired off a special attack. And the idea here, I think, is to help newer players understand and adapt to the combo system in MCOC. And for a seasoned player like myself, this probably feels like second nature. But, more and more often these days, we're getting characters like America Chavez here who have kind of non-standard combos, right? So as a new player, helping them adapt and learn those new style combos is really going to help them progress in the contest a lot faster. Now, I said these are offensive actions only, so again, defensive actions like dexes and blocks are not going to be tracked here. These are only offensive actions. Now, this feature will be enabled by default starting with the update next month, but there will be a setting in the settings menu for you to disable it. Now, if you're a veteran player like me, you might be asking yourself, what benefit could I possibly get from such a feature? And Zero makes a pretty good point later on in the post. He says one thing that's actually really useful is that this also shows the opponent's combo. So you can use this to identify when the opponent has finished their combo into your block and punish them for doing so. So if you were a really old player, you might remember Dorky Dave doing a video on this. I think he called it strike matching. So it's the ability to recognize when a defender has finished their combo with a second medium or a 4th light into your block, because after they do so, there is a small window with which you can punish them. So I think for me personally, adding more stuff to the HUD is probably going to be more distracting. But if you are trying to learn the animations, especially for a newer defender, if you're trying to learn their animations and recognize what the difference is between their first medium, their second medium, and their light attacks, turning this on at least temporarily, I think, could have a good amount of benefit. Number 5 isn't something that's actually in the patch notes, but it is relevant to what we just talked about, so I do want to bring it up here. Now, in the combo tracker section, I mentioned how there's going to be a toggle in the settings menu where you can disable the combo tracker feature permanently. And somebody in the forum thread for it asked, when is this coming for BG emotes? And you can see Mike's response here, never. So I find BGs emotes are mostly used in a toxic manner. Everyone has been spammed with Laughing Loki, especially if you faced a modder who's laughing because they just made you waste your Elder's Marks. I find them very annoying, and I really hate having to manually mute every single person that I play. And I have been outspoken publicly and privately in the CCP Discord about wanting a global mute option for Battlegrounds emotes, and a couple of months ago I was told unequivocally a global mute option is never going to happen. And this is the first time I think that I've seen the team give the same kind of flat out answer publicly, that this is a feature that they have no interest in adding to the game. And I just want to point out how extremely disappointing this decision is for me. And I think that the only reason that you would choose to do this, to say something is never going to be a possibility in the future, is because players are paying for these emotes with real money or units. So the idea that I am now required by default to watch someone emote spam me when I lose a match because they dropped a few dollars on an emote is actually infuriating to me and really, really disappointing. When I got that answer from the team in the CCB Discord, there was an implication there of this is the way it's going to be and don't ask about it again. And so I haven't mentioned it since, but I just want to share, once more how strongly I disagree with this choice. And I do hope at some point that they change their mind, but I really doubt it. Number 6, Mantis is getting buffed for July. She's made it through the rebalancing program, and incredibly, Mantis is getting buffed to have more damage. The data on her since release was apparently very bad, which is surprising to me because I thought her damage on release was actually pretty good. Anyway, check out her updated champion spotlight for more details on that. Number 7, we're getting a brand new batch of relics starting on July 14th. The 3 that we're getting are Spider-Man 2099, Ghost Rider, and Mr. Sinister. And I gotta say, this is probably the best trio of relics that they've introduced to the game so far. Let's take a look at each of them really quickly. First off, we have Spider-Man 2099. So he is designed to aid buff immune champions. So whenever this champion is immune to a buff, or when one expires naturally or is nullified, inflict a 10% physical vulnerability passive for 12 seconds, and then the potency of that effect is increased by 10% for each Wither, Taunt, or Enervate on the opponent. So that's really nice for Spider-Man 2099. Also, I think Titania is going to get a lot of good use out of this. The secondary benefit of this relic in particular to Spider-Gwen, Classic Spidey, and Miles Morales is that they gain immunity to the precision buff from dexterity, and you can see here this has no cooldown. So if you equip this relic to one of these 3 champions, they now have pseudo buff immunity, which is incredible. Really, really valuable relic if you run any of these 3 champions. All right, the second one is Ghost Rider. This is probably the one I am most excited for. The next degen effect gains 35% increased potency and inflicts a degen vulnerability passive, and then the Striker inflicts a degen vulnerability debuff. So I play a lot of Mojo in Battlegrounds, and I cannot wait to pop this Ghost Rider relic on my 6-star Mojo. The potency of the degen on him with this, I think, is going to be incredible. Last but not least is the Sinister relic, and this one is very interesting. So when the Striker on this relic finishes, you're going to get a bleed debuff on yourself, but dealing no damage over 4 seconds. So right away you're getting 4 seconds of free willpower healing, which is really nice. Now, whenever this bleed occurs, whether you're immune to it or not, you're going to gain a precision passive and a cruelty passive, and then a few of these champs increase the potency of those effects. And then this relic also serves to trigger abilities on champions that are affected by bleed. So with Colossus, for example, when he's immune to an effect, he gains additional armor ups if you have him duped. So if you trigger this bleed, you're gaining free armor ups. With Storm, if she's bled, you gain additional prowess, so you can serve to ramp her up that way. The one champion who is not listed here, who I think is most interesting with this relic, is Omega Red. Because with this ability to inflict a bleed debuff on yourself, you basically have on-demand access to the death field, and I can already hear Omega Red players like falling out of their chairs at the thought of being able to do this. So very, very powerful effect. All 3 of these relics, again, look great. I'm very excited for the Ghost Rider relic. Can't wait to get all 3 of them. That's going to do it for this one, folks. Let me know in the comments below what you are most excited for in July, whether it's Silk or Kindred, or if you are excited for the Mantis buff if you play a lot of Mantis, or if you're like me, excited for that new batch of relics. In any case, please remember to hit that like button for me, and as always, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time.